Hello everyone, it's Dr. Paul Rose again, and this is the next video in my series of MSc Research Project Hints, Tips and Techniques. In this presentation, we're going to be looking at time management and research-life balance for when you're going through the actual doing of and construction of the final research project that you will submit. It's really important to have a plan to stay on track throughout your postgraduate research project. Actually being able to see the finish point is something that's really important to successful completion of any form of research. From my own experiences of being an MSc student and of doing my PhD, if I could visualize what I was aiming for, the whole project didn't seem that daunting. That was particularly important for when I did my PhD. I found that if you couldn't see the end point of what you were doing, you would really struggle with motivation. Try not to do too much in your MSc project. Work with your supervisor to have clear and defined aims and objectives that you're able to work towards and can complete in a realistic and logistically possible time frame. And always stick to these aims. Remember back to one of my earlier videos where I've talked about the research question, aims and objectives. Best to not change these as you go. Draw them out with your supervisor and stick to them. It will give your project a goal, it will give your project a focal point, and you will be able to see that end of the race, as it were, because you know exactly what you're aiming for. So always stick to any plans that you've drawn up. Particularly around data collection. If you know you need to do 3 months worth of data collection, 4 days a week behavioural observations, don't try and cut corners, but stick to it. If you know that's what you've got to do to get a sound data set, it is better to put the energy and effort in to doing that to get the data set than trying to cut corners and think of ways around it. You'll just be more stressed when it comes to try and do your data analysis. Plans are there for a reason. Yes, they have to be flexible, but the expert advice you get from your supervisor in giving you instructions and ideas on how much data to collect has been done for a reason. If you need 3 months of behavioural data at 4 days a week, I'm afraid that's what you're going to need to do. So stick to those plans, make sure you know why you're doing it, and keep your aims in mind. However, you must remember that research is never a completely smooth process. So have a contingency in case things go awry. Nothing is ever always completely 100% within your control. So long as you realise that, and so long as you don't try to control everything, it will be less stressful as you go through your project. And really importantly, and again, I can't stress this enough from my own experiences as a research student, build yourself a support network. Research is a lonely business. It's your project. You might share it with your supervisor, but ultimately you are the one doing it. Mum and dad, grandparents, other family members, friends around you won't understand your project in the same way as you do, but they're still important. So take time out to let them in. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them why you're doing it. It will also help you keep focused and on track and know when you can unwind and go and speak to non-science people when you need to. I found my support network was invaluable when it came to me putting together the end result of my PhD. So time out for yourself is important. You're not going to complete the best research project that you can if 23 hours out of a 24-hour day you're devoting to your science. You will get burnt out, you'll become exhausted, and you'll become resentful of your project. And if that resentment builds up, you're not going to want to complete your research because you're not going to like it. So breaks are good. Step away from your project and come back to it. It will give you fresh perspective. But you must be disciplined. Think about the afternoon nap. 20 minutes is good for you. You will feel more alert, more perky, and more keen to get on with the rest of your day. Any longer than 20 minutes, and if you're anything like me, I feel groggy and just generally unproductive, and I don't feel right for the rest of the day. Too many breaks that aren't focused or planned in are not going to be helpful. What I recommend are small rewards as you go through the process. Maybe when you complete your introduction, maybe when you complete your methods, maybe when your supervisor has checked off your data analysis, maybe when your discussion is crafted, maybe when the whole thing is done and sent to your proofreaders. Small rewards for each milestone that you reach. One of my top tips on breaks and not being stressed about the workload is to not treat your summer holiday as data collection. You have this huge length of time as an MSc student to collect data over the summer. That's why it's built into the academic calendar. But you must remember, as tempting as it is, it's not a holiday. And the more you use of that summer for holiday rather than data collection and write-up, the more stressed you will be at the end. I have seen countless students that are really anxious about their project because they have treated the summer holiday of their MSc as if it was the summer holiday of being an undergraduate. You must be disciplined and you must work through it. And what I thoroughly recommend is to plan yourself a break once your thesis is written, once your viva is done, once you know your project has been examined. There's no further calls on your time to come back to university. You know the whole thing is completed. Once you have that mark, then go on holiday. Maybe don't do that during your period of data collection. You'll be anxious and stressed about things that you're going to be missing out on. Because subconsciously, at the back of your mind, you know that you should be doing data collection and you know that you want to do data collection. So don't avoid it. Resist the temptations to go on lengthy holidays whilst you're in that summer period and save it until your project is done, because I guarantee you would enjoy it a lot more once the whole thing is finished. So let's think about the plan A of your project, your aims, what you want to set out to do, and how you're going to meet them. So this is me, fresh-faced, even though you can see the back of my head, fresh-faced PhD student in my first year doing observations on the sample populations that I was studying. I was very lucky during the course of my data collection for my PhD. There were no extraneous circumstances beyond my control that prevented me from doing my complete field seasons of collecting data. But we can't rely on that happening. So we like plan A, and we want to try and stick to plan A, and that's the best way we can of meeting all of our aims. But we should be rational and logical in our approach to research. What would happen if we can't have plan A? What would happen if I can't sit out on this lovely sunny day watching the animals that I was studying? Talk to your supervisor about a plan B. They will have the experience of what to do. There might be webcams you could watch, live streams of animals similar or exactly the same in other parts of the world, and you can continue with data collection as normal. There might be things you can do at home. There might be data sets, banks of photos, lists of things that require analysis, studies that can be done online, meta-analyses and critical reviews, published data on nutritional information, ingredients, dietary requirements, reviews of behavioural analysis from the past, the outputs of surveys that are publicly available. There's always a plan B for any form of project. You might have to tweak your outcome slightly, but plan that in advance. Plan A is what we really want you to do. Plan B is the safety net in case of extraneous things that are beyond your control. So please don't panic about what's happening with your work. Think about research as this journey that you're going on. It's never a completely smooth process. So talk to your supervisor, discuss your options, and think about the ideas that you could have that are potential solutions to any challenges that you face. And I recommend that you speak to your supervisor face-to-face online through Zoom or Teams or similar, or in person if they're more freely available. Direct dialogue is going to be so much better than hiding behind email and worrying behind email. There's going to be less chance of misconstruing messages, ideas, things you're concerned about if you're actually talking to somebody. A lot can get lost in translation over email. So remember, your research project, just the same as anybody else's, will have some sections that go well and some sections that are a bit more bumpy, but that's completely normal and part of the process. The reason why we give you supervisors is because supervisors are the experts in this and can allay your fears and help guide you through. So, am I repeating myself? Well, probably, because I've said the words have a plan many, many times. But if you're going to set milestones to aim for, you're more likely to complete them and then move on to the next chapter of your project and then be successful overall. Even if you're really daunted and you find things challenging, I recommend that you do some writing each day, even if only for 30 minutes. Obviously, if you're getting to the end of your project and deadlines are looming, please do more than 30 minutes. But if you start small and you break off bite-sized chunks, it will be easier. 30 minutes of writing a day soon builds up into a complete 6,000 or 7,000 word thesis. Please don't shy away from your challenges. I've mentioned this again in a previous presentation. If you don't like stats and you don't like statistical analysis, do it. Do it some more and do it again. The more you confront something, rather than running away from it, the easier and less daunting it will become. With stats in mind, think about your data analysis early. Talk to your supervisor during the planning process. When you know what data you're going to get or aim to get, the ideas for analysis will come. You'll know what to practice. You'll know what to try out. It will be less of a fluster, less of a new thing to try and learn if you've already got some advance warning. When you have these timelines and goals to aim for, think about adding on extra time to what you've already prepared. I recommend 25% extra to any goal that you've set. There will always be things along the way that you need to iron out. That extra time will be invaluable, particularly if proofreaders throw you a curved ball, something that you think is understandable, but your readership don't get. You might need reanalysis, reevaluation, rewriting. Build that into your time frame. And please identify reliable proofreaders when you start your research. Friends or family, as well as people that might be a bit more distant from you that can give you objective advice. See if they're around, see if they're free when you're likely to have finished, and ask them if they'll read your project. Perhaps thank them with chocolates and wine at the end of it. That will always go down well when you're asking somebody to read several thousand words worth of your science. And please, please, please check and double check your technology. Hard drives for backups, memory sticks, stats packages, things you need online. Is it all there and accessible for you? I guarantee if you check something, you'll be more likely to have ease of use of that than if you come to it brand new with a week before the deadline, things will go wrong and you might not have the time available to work out solutions to these new challenges. So what have I said to you on my planning and be prepared? Well, check, check and check again. Is your computer up to date? Is it running the latest versions of things? Have you got the licensing and permissions you need for particular software? Your stats packages, for example. I am never not amazed by the number of students that come along a couple of weeks before hand-in and they can't get the licenses to work for their stats packages, or they haven't bothered to work out where the license is. Do that well in advance. Have a backup for each section of your project and know where those backups are. Put them on external hard drives. Check your memory sticks at work. Don't just randomly pull them out of your laptop. Eject them normally. Think about emailing a copy to yourself, but be wary of version control. Name your files with dates. Don't just try to add final, this is final to file names. dates will really help. Particularly if you have a OneDrive or a SharePoint attached to your Office 365 account, email stuff so it can be stored in the cloud, then you're never going to use it. Do that for your write-up and do that for your raw data. If you're using your laptop a lot for writing, occasionally shut it down completely or restart it. Laptops will get tired and worn out, just like we do when we're writing at research, if they're never allowed a break. If you're constantly just shutting your laptop, or you're not letting it be shut down properly, and it's going into sleep mode, it's probably going to get slower and be more likely to crashes or failures. So restart or shut down, give it a break to sort out all of the files and where they live inside the hard drive itself. Think about planned network outages. Lots of mobile operating companies that provide broadband will give you a heads up on engineering work. Check the emails or ask the person that pays the broadband bill to check emails so you know when planned outages are and work around them. Perhaps do something that doesn't require you to be online on days when there might be engineering works in your area. Think about where you're storing key papers or information. If there is a network outage, are they on a hard drive that you can get without need of the internet? Are your data accessible offline too? I found myself putting hard drives of raw data and chapters everywhere over the house for my PhD, as well as stored on the university system, as well as stored on my Gmail, Dropbox, and also on my Office 365. It's really important to have as many copies as possible. And all you have to do is delete them once you're done. More copies are better than only one. For photos, images and diagrams, make sure they are to hand so you know what to do with them, you know where you've put them, and you know when you wish to use them. Don't waste a lot of time searching through lots and lots of albums. If you've identified something as useful as you go, pull it out of the folder it's in and put it in a research folder and label it with the chapter it will go into, and then it will be easier to find. And finally, think about the length of time proofreading might take. Give your proofreaders time. Remember, they're doing this for you, not for themselves, so don't rush them. Give them plenty of time to read your work, and then give yourself plenty of time to action their comments and go through what they've said. I strongly recommend never ignoring any of the comments from a proofreader. Just because you don't action them, because maybe they've misinterpreted or misunderstood, you should still think about why that might be and change your writing style, evaluation and interpretation accordingly so your work, your research output is accessible to the widest possible audience. And when you come to submit through the university, do you know where it will go? Do you know the submission process? Do you know what links to use in a virtual learning classroom? Do you know what you need to submit? Your final report, raw data, ethics forms, permissions, so on and so forth. Make sure that's all there and ready to go, and you're not scrabbling around for extra details or extra documents when you do go to submit, but it's asked you to do things that you weren't already aware of. Please keep the finish line in sight. Don't give up on your research. Any piece of research matters to someone somewhere, even if your results are non-significant. So have a plan, know your aims, keep in touch with your supervisor, look after yourself and build a support network, and you will get to the finish line unscathed in one piece and with a solid piece of research that will be useful to somebody and to the industry. Thank you very much.